I think we are good to go as a test. So, so we are live right now, actually. Okay, so in case people have already joined in, Shagun, okay, I don't know how many people have joined in, but in case they've joined in, we are live. And we'll start
No.
we'll start our conversation a little later. Uh, Maybe we need a timer to help us do this. Let me see if I can get that on. Yeah. Ah, okay.
Okay.
So that's it. 4.5 minutes to go. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. All good.
Okay. Good. So, so this is crazy, right? So I've informed as many people as I think I could. Okay, and I'm also afraid a lot of my friends would have blocked me by now.
Yeah, that was a ticking time bomb. Anyway, so if it happens, we'll hear it live.
So yes, that's it. Anyway, okay. So for just the rest of you folks, we're just testing out this. So I'm going to just change some of these layouts and see if it works. Okay, so ah, so this
Extreme
is what it
close up.
looks like.
This is
This is
so
what it
bad.
looks like. Yeah, you can see everything. Okay, what about this? Not bad. Why am I full frame? This works too. How about this?
Bad.
Yeah. Okay. So
Let's just go back to the more balanced. Yes, thank you.
hmm. Yeah. So we have maybe another 3.5 minutes to go before we figure out what we're going to do.
Okay.
Hmm.
Is this the time where we have the awkward conversation on the weather?
Ah, the weather in Bangalore. Okay. People in Bombay will probably be wondering what's happening in Bangalore. So it's still a lot
Oh,
better.
hi, Doc. I see Dr. Ashwin Patel has joined.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah. My only hope is for the next, what, 35, 40 minutes, it does not rain. We don't have a power outage or lose Wi-Fi just for 35 minutes. That's my wish for this day.
Yeah, talking of wishes, I got a really nice one from WhatsApp. Finally, I got the version where you can edit the text after it's been sent. I've
I
made
hope
so
they don't
many.
send an additional
I've made
notification
I've
for
made
that.
I've made no, they don't. It just comes
Thank God.
edited. It just comes edited at the
That's
bottom, and
okay.
that's it. So it's it doesn't tell you what's been edited though, which is also kind of okay as long as you can go back and change those fat finger typos. So I make a lot of those mistakes, especially when I type the news in the morning, and the thing is, it goes out to so many people, and everyone sends me messages saying, "Oh, there's a mistake. There's a mistake." It's so embarrassing. So it's a,
But at
yes.
least you know people are reading attentively, so
Thank you very much, Doc. Yes, yeah, yeah.
I mean, not everything has to be like with edit history like a Google Doc, so I think it's
Uh,
okay.
Technology, it's a curse also, but then it
One of
allows
the
us to
things
do
we're
something
going
like
to,
this.
one of the things that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. Yes, we are. So a minute and a half. Yeah, I think this platform is good. I think this can work for us for the other things
Hmm.
also. Yeah, it's good. Maybe you should continue to use this one. So
Yeah.
in case anybody's wondering what we're using, okay, we're using Restream to do this. So it's really cool because you can hit 5 destinations on one place, and your guest can also hit another 2 or 3 of them. So it can really go out to a lot of people. So and Restream is not paying me for saying this. So just as a clarification, disclaimer, they never paid me for this. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah. So much for having. I can't help it. The influencer is the right there next to me. So we have to make sure.
Oh my God.
Okay, seriously, I mean, these are the comments you're gonna get. Thank you very much. Yes,
So you're
yes,
working
we
on
are.
you're
Yes, we
working on your
are.
birthday also. Yeah, mom, we're all set.
Yeah. Okay. 45, 46, and I think we can get rid of this now.
I feel like those Instagram people, like in the right before they start a life, like, okay, we'll just wait for some more people to join. And today I can actually empathize with that feeling. That's so weird.
Yeah, we're just doing that. We're doing
Yeah, I know.
exactly that.
We're
We're
doing
waiting for
exactly that.
more people to join.
Stopping short of calling it out, which I did. So I think we've coming of age.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. So I think what we should probably do is, maybe start with a quick introduction because not everybody knows us. So I guess it's about to hit 7 o'clock.
Yep, I think it is 7. Yes, it is 7.
Yep. Okay. So here's the thing. Uh, I think what we should do is, and for those of you who have already joined us, you've probably heard us speak informally for a while. Okay, but now we'll be a little more formal because we don't want to really waste your time and make it worth your while. So thank you for joining us. On a Wednesday evening. It's a very pretty odd time to have it, but we thought that hey, it was my birthday actually. So that's the reason we're having it. So anyway, because I wanted to do something useful, so I dragged my daughter into this and I told her that this is what we are going to do. So the poor thing and her team worked on it, and here we are.
No, no,
So,
we're
so
not a poor thing.
yeah, so my so
But
my name so my name is Sandeep Ohri, and I am that strategy guy you really want to call when you have challenges that you face. And with me is Shagun Ohri, who's the founder of the Satori Studio. It's a creative design agency, and she's also my daughter. Actually, she's my daughter first, and the founder later. And so. What we thought we'd do today is, I've been talking a lot about behavioral science, and she's been doing a lot of good work in the design space for branding, retailing, marketing and packaging, corporate communications. And there is a very clear link between the two, in terms of behavioral science and how it goes out to people. uh, when I do this for entrepreneurs and founders and leaders, and get them to understand about behavioral science, and on the other hand, the more you talk about products and services and all of that, so there was a very clear distinct linkage between the two. And we thought we'd bring that out and make that really clear as to what is the linkage, why is it important, and all of that. So that's where we are. So that's who we are. And I would actually let Shagun introduce herself first, and then I'll go later. So Shagun, over to you.
great. So I'm Shagun Ohri, not only Sandeep Ohri's daughter, but also a creative marketing, branding professional. I've been doing this for the last 11 years, and now I think all my experience has sort of come down into me wanting my own baby, not a human one, but in the form of a business. So it's called the Satori Studio. We are a team of extremely enterprising women who are experts in design, in content, in social media strategy, and we work with startups and young niche businesses to help them really understand their brand, understand their marketing, build their creative journeys, and yeah, that's exactly what we do, and it's a very fulfilling journey. And I'm going to take this to literally say thank you to my team who has not only dealt with me but my dad too. It is one thing to introduce somebody as your father, but it's another thing your father's your client, and then he's your team's client. It's a whole thing. But yeah, they deserve it because yeah, I know what it's like to work with SNO.
Yeah, I'm right here in the room, guys.
Good. So now
Yeah,
I know X number of people know too.
yeah. No, all Shagun, all of these people online, they probably know me a lot more, and they're now getting to know you because I've been there doing all of these, RCB talks and a lot of the other shows, and also, so yeah, they know me a lot. So for those maybe Shagun's friends who've joined, and Shagun's friend circle. So I am Shagun's father, okay, aka Sandeep Ohri, the strategy guy, And so basically, chartered accountant by education, which very many people don't really still believe. Um, did a whole lot of different careers. Went into packaging and broadcast video, animation, graphics, enterprise IT, CAD CAM, geospatial, defense, homeland security. Yeah, so there's a lot of things I've done. So the only good thing that came out of it is got to understand a lot of different companies, how they work, a lot of different sectors, what's important, how people in different segments, whether it's a B2B or a B2C or a B2G government institution, what is it that they look for when they buy, how they perceive things. And I didn't really know that, the psychology behind all of this is, at the end of the day, a lot of what we now call behavioral science. So that is something which is, that we need to figure out. So that's what I do now. It's very nice. Everyone has a, once you get to a point in your career where you spent about 35 years working, you can actually sit and make a nice backstory. You can say, this is what I was, and then I pivoted, and I did this, and I did this, and make a nice backstory. But when you're at those stages, you're actually not thinking that I'll pivot and I'll do this. You try a whole lot of different things. If it works, great. So that's what happened. So I tried a lot of different things. Some of it worked, most of it didn't, and so that's what I am now here today. So that's what it is, and that's where we are. And for all you folks who know, a lot of you know, we're originally from Mumbai, and we are now in Bangalore. Okay, and that's all thanks to Shagun. She decided to one fine day just get up and say, "I'm going to Bangalore," and I'm like, we don't have any relatives there. Where are you going to stay? And Shagun, you are all of I mean, she's just finished. She'd finished graduation. She worked for I think just about over a year or so, a year or
No,
two.
Dad, I had worked for like 4 years by then.
4 years. Ah, okay. I got called out in public. Yeah, thanks. So,
Hey, at least you remember my age. We
so
don't need to
I was,
call that out,
I was trying to avoid, I began to say you are all of 20. Stop. So anyway, so she decided one fine day to move to Bangalore, and my wife and I were aghast that what the hell is this? But she moved and she stayed, and she did it on her own, and then she kept coming back to Bombay. And the funny thing is, every time she would come to Bombay, she's like, Dad, how can you stay here? And I'm like, see, all your life you were here and it was good. You were having fun. And now suddenly the last, year or two, this has become a hellhole for you. And but strangely, when my wife and I came here and, we spent some time here and we actually seriously thought that, maybe it's a good place.
you forgot a
Maybe
very important part of that story where I broke my
yeah,
leg
yeah. I
and
was trying to
mom.
avoid saying that, Shagun. Where your mom had to come and look after you. So,
If
but
it
that's
convinced you guys to move to Bangalore and you're not like a
yes,
flight away but just 4 kilometers away, you can share that story.
yeah. So no, but that's actually what happened. It was in the middle of COVID, and she broke her knee, and she had an ACL tear actually. So my wife had to come here, and she will look after her till she became okay. And this was in the middle of October, and the first wave, in between the first second wave of COVID. October for all of you in Mumbai is really hot. Okay. And October, for those of you who know Bangalore, is like really wow. So it's like a world of a difference. So my wife came back and she's like, the weather is so awesome. The weather is so awesome. I'm like, but you have your reservations and all. I said, no, but the weather is so awesome. I said, okay, let's go and check it out. So some of you know, my son was just finishing his studies, and we were at that point where Mumbai University was just still figuring out, should we go online, should we not go online, what is it that we should do? Finally, they went online, they had the exams. My son graduated, and I told him, don't take up a job. We might go to Bangalore, and he's like, my friends. So anyway, so we dragged the poor chap along. He didn't have too much of a choice, but he's liking it here too. He works in the esports industry, and he has himself a job now, and he's doing well for himself. And yeah, I think sorry guys in Bombay, but Bangalore really, Bangalore has been nice to us, or at least to me for sure. So the thing is now I need to be nice to Bangalore. So that's the thing. Okay, so that's a little bit about a backstory about how we got here. For those of you who are interested, and for those of you who weren't, well, now you do. So
And if you're trying to convince your parents to move here, don't break a leg. It's horrible. It took 2 years to recover. Don't. I recommend bribing them or crying or some emotional blackmail.
yes, break a leg indeed, guys. Yeah, yes. Thank
Yeah,
you
yeah.
very much.
Prishita, no, man.
Thank you very much for that, for reminding us and also for rubbing it in as far as Shagun is concerned. Okay,
It's okay.
so that's what it is, So okay, so Shagun, let's talk about, if you have any questions on the leadership aspect, So
Yeah,
so
I think before we get into that, I'd like to give a little bit of why we're choosing this topic and its relevance to to people today, to businesses today, to anybody who literally has a job today. So one of the few things that happened during the pandemic, when you sit and think about it, is that we realized the need to understand people better. The minute you went from working 6 days a week, 18 hours a day, 12 hours a day in a very big office to suddenly just working out of probably your kids nursery to now suddenly being like, oh shit, I don't know, should I work from home? Should I not work from home? Suddenly, in a very short period of time, so many things changed. They changed on two major aspects. One is on the business aspect, and two is how you treat people in a business aspect, aka leadership. So the whole idea of this is that we've seen this change, we've been a part of this change as much as literally everybody else. And we've been in this industry respectively for dad for 35 plus years, me for the last 11 years. We've seen different kinds of leaders. And what we realized is there is so much conflict that exists today. And it only exists for the simple reason that we don't want to understand different kinds of people. It's because the pandemic has made us selfish for the right reasons, but also somewhere that right reason selfishness is sort of translated into not being able to understand people, not being
Yeah.
able to understand why people behave the way they do. So since dad has been a leader and has led multiple teams across different categories, different businesses, I put down a list of questions that where I wanted to understand how behavioral science and leadership go hand in hand. And the idea is that if you are anybody who is in a position to, or who is in a position where you're leading, whether it's a team of two or a team of five or a team of 35, even, the whole idea is how can you take learnings from how people behave to optimize your team, to understand where they're coming from, not in a way to justify lack of productivity, but in a way to work around individual people. Different people have different learning curves, and I sort of want to pick his brain on, how what he's learned from all the people that he's seen in his life, and what got him here. So I think maybe before we get into what got him here and his perspective, let's probably backtrack a little bit, maybe like by 40 years. So, when you started your career sometime in the 80s, I was not even a concept back then, and you worked with your father's business. And, today, cut to like literally 35, 40 years later, you are working with young leaders, you're working with people who are, with
People like
founders
you,
who are Gen Z,
people like
people like
you and
me.
your
Yes,
team. Yeah.
people like me and my team. And I'm curious to understand what is the difference in leadership style that you've noticed from then to today? I know it's a very captain obvious answer, but I really want to know from your personal experience what's the difference.
See, when I started work in, you probably know the first. I mean, after I finished my CA and my MCom, the first job I did, we had a family business in packaging. So my dad put me there, on the spot and turned around and said that, that's it. You're not going anywhere. And you're going to sit here and you're going to, run this business. And I didn't know the P of packaging. But anyway, so since it was a family business and that's how businesses were run in those days, so I jumped into it and got involved. So the thing is, I got to understand, 30, 30, 40, 40, 45 years back when he started the business, the business environment was very different. Okay. I mean, we have now, and we talk of, ease of doing business, and we also talk in terms of whether it's, enough is being done or enough is not being done. But that's not the point. A lot of what is being done now is really a lot better than what it was, 35, 40 years back. The most important thing is, our country
Dad,
was.
just to think, people are saying you're not very audible. Could you maybe speak
Okay.
a little
Yeah.
louder?
So the
Yeah.
thing is, 35, 40 years back, what was happening is our country was, it was still a very young country. Today it's a lot more technologically advanced, and we can, be proud of a lot of things that are going on. And there are the naysayers also, but that's okay. But the thing is, there is a lot that has happened right now, which is a lot better than the business environment than what it was. Definitely a lot more different. An individual in those days was struggling with, simple things like license raj. There was a license raj. I don't even know. Some of you talk to your grandparents and parents, and you come to know that the income tax rate was like 97% in the 70s. It came to like, I mean, you'll be aghast. Just imagine you earn 1 rupee, you declare, no, you declare 1 rupee of income, and the government will take 97 paise out of it. Okay, so just think of those days. So that's where we were. Those people who entered the business in those days had to deal with that. Their mindsets were very different. Their thought processes were very different. Information was not so freely and easily available. Okay, today you can Google anything you want, and if you think it's not enough, you go to AI and you ask Chat GPT and Bard what you want to do. But the thing is, in those days, libraries, books, on the latest technology or the latest available development, it took months to come from one country to another. So the environment in which those businessmen and those business people grew up was very different. Information was very very important. If the information went from one person to another, the first person would be very very insecure, so they would not like tell. So they would have things like, this is our business secret. So that was the environment there. Today we live in a very very different environment. Okay, so leaders who grew up in that time and who started their business that time, they find leading teams and companies now very very challenging, because they have seen a very different world, and they have learned the hard way. We say the great Indian jugaad. That came because the systems were so complex, you had to find a way through. So that's where the jugaad came through. Okay. Now we use it as a cool term, and you just find a shortcut, it's a jugaad. But those guys actually did the jugaad because there were serious problems at that time. So there is this real paradigm shift in the type of leaders. And the large companies that we have today are still pretty much the older companies. We do have a fair amount of new age companies who came up in the last 10, 15 years, and they're really grown to very large formidable sizes. But a lot of but those are far and few in between. A majority of the companies are still the old school ones. Okay, and they're the ones which are now changing and want to change. And also there is this big shift in thinking which is required to be done by leaders. And that is something which is also very very challenging, because for 20 years, if you've done something in a certain way and it's worked, if somebody comes and tells you, probably somebody half your age comes and tells you that I have a better way of doing it, the first thing you'll say, seriously, you're going to teach me how to do this business? I've done it for 20 years. you know so that shift in the senior leadership, that challenge for the juniors to deal with such seniors, is making behavioral science very very important when it comes to leadership roles. So leaders who are leading and looking down, and aspiring leaders who are wanting to grow and go up, because not everybody is an entrepreneur. You work in large companies too, so you deal with the system. That is where behavioral science really really comes in, and an understanding helps you to deal with the situation, instead of saying, you don't know, I'm a youngster, you are an old foggy. Instead of all of that, it's behavioral science. Just figure it out. So that's what it is.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm curious to know that had you had any sort of experience or learnings about behavioral science back in the day, would you have done things differently? I mean, you've run your business twice, thrice, I don't even know how many times you've run multiple teams. Do you share some of your mistakes, basically?
Yeah, so yeah, so see, I really don't know. See, okay, behavioral science for sure would have helped me deal with people better, because there is that frustration that comes in. Even in a family-oriented business. So you have the older generation who wants to protect the younger ones. Okay, especially in a family-owned business, you will want to make sure that they don't make mistakes. Especially they come from a background where the situation was very challenging, and safety and security was a big issue. Okay, the newer generation that comes in really doesn't have to think of that much of safety and security, because the safety net has already been built by the earlier generation. So the older generation is like, okay, don't take risk and take it easy, and don't do this and do that. And the younger generation is like, hey, it's okay, if I make a mistake, let me make a mistake. So a lot of that, if I would have known a lot earlier, I would have been able to deal with a lot of those challenges much better, for sure. Okay, and at the end of the day, sales doesn't change. Okay, so when you're selling, and I always tell people in all my workshops, and you probably know it. See, in sales, it's a very simple rule. People buy from people whom they believe they can trust. That will not change. Okay, whether it was 30 years back, whether it was 50 years back, whether it is going to be 10 years from now also, you are going to buy something from a person or a brand or a company that you believe you can trust. Now, whether you think it is cheaper, it is faster, it is better, which are according to me the only three reasons, and the perception of that is all that matters. You don't really have to be cheaper, you don't really have to be faster, you don't really have to be better. The person buying has to believe so. That's it. So these things don't change. So when you learn behavioral science, you learn to understand these biases, you learn to understand what's going on in the other person's mind. So if you learn that, it makes it simpler. You stop getting frustrated. You know, you understand. It's like, okay, I know he's not trying to, just throw me out, but I understand why he's thinking the way he's thinking. Okay, so maybe if I find a way of addressing that, We'll sort it. So yeah, it would have helped. Short answer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think before I actually go to my next question, because you've segued into this so beautifully about the perception and perspectives that people have when they are being either managed by a younger person or an older person, I also want to sort of hear your insight on maybe people that and you know a lot of people. What do they share? Like, are they in positions where are they willing to, is someone say 50 plus willing to work with someone who's maybe say 35 who runs their own business? Because now, if you look at all your startup leaders, most of them are younger than 40, and these guys have probably dropped out. They don't have your stereotypical check boxes, like which you would look at before you joined a job. You would look at the profile of your boss and see if he's worth working with, and so on and so forth. And now you're like, this dude went to like four colleges, I don't know, but he got like $300 million funding. So I'm curious to know, what has your observation been? Because see, you come from your experiences. I want to know that, for some of the people in your circles, what has your observation been with them? Have they joined such companies? Have they invested in such companies? Or have they just said, nope, I would rather stick to, working in my good old style that I'm happy with? And do you see a trend that changes?
It's very interesting you brought this up. I know you've seen this movie, The Intern. Okay, I think that really cut it very nicely. So how Anne Hathaway, a young founder owner of the company, hires this old Robert De Niro. It's a really interesting movie for some of you, and he understands the challenges she has as a young mother bringing up a family and a business, and he tries to add value in his way. Okay, and for a moment she like tries to resist and things like that, but then she also understands the value it brings to the table. I think that understanding is something that will help both sides, and both generations, if I can say, both sides coexist. That understanding is very, very important. The younger generation needs to understand that these guys have been through a lot. They're a lot more resilient. They're a lot less flashy. Okay, they're a lot less likely to get ticked off at the drop of a hat. So there is that kind of level of maturity and experience that they have. They need to pick their brains, okay, rather than fight them and say that I don't want to do it. So that's as far as the older founders are concerned. As far as the younger founders are concerned, the older employees, if we, to lack of a better word, to make it in context, the older employees working for younger founders need to be able to bring that to the table and say, hey, okay, you hired me for this job. I know this really well. You want to do it in a different way? Fine, that's okay. But I have the skills and expertise which can add value to you. Okay, so that is something, rather than saying that it's my age versus your age and my attitude versus your attitude. That's where the problem starts. It's just like gender, gender diversity. It's gender equity. If you start saying, oh, you're a man and you're a woman and you're a, you are what you are, and you are, you are he, she, them, they, that's where the problem starts. If you just take it at face value that okay, you're a person who can add value, you're a member of this team, you bring value to this team, that's it. Just look at it as much as that. That's it. So now there is no personality involved, there is no ego involved, there is nothing involved except a common shared vision and objective. I think we need to look at it from that perspective, because if we do, then that whole conflict thing will go away. I don't know if I answered your question, but
Yeah.
that's the best answer I
No, I
have.
no, I think that answers it. I mean, even if not anecdotally, you bring out the very important point that it's not just empathy is not just a one-way street. Usually, people are like, hey, the older guy has seen so much life, so he understands the younger generation, and the younger dude is like, how do I even match up to that level? And the
Yeah.
truth is, you don't have to match up.
No, no. Yes, exactly.
And most people, like you said, the conflict happens in a space where you're trying to overcompensate instead of focusing on your role and your place in that system and being a part of that system, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
also something I think I saw you posted about this a couple of days ago in your behavioral science group about collaboration and
Exactly.
working together and growing in a community rather than
That's what it
individually.
is. I mean, you see, you can't exist in a vacuum. And what's the point anyway if you are in a vacuum? I'm the only person who can do this. Yeah, well, congratulations. There's nobody with you. So what the hell is it worth? So it's better to work with people. So So whether older, younger, maybe the younger person has got more access to resources. The business environment has changed. Finances are available more easily to youngsters than what it was 20 years back. 20 years back, you go, a young 25-year-old entrepreneur founder wanting to set up their business. If you would walk into a bank, if she would walk into a bank, so I'm saying if she would walk into a bank 25 years back, at the age of 25 and ask for a 25 lakh loan, they would have shown her the door. So that's what it is. So today it's a lot better. It's a lot simpler. So I think we have to understand that the system has changed, the environment has changed, the backdrop has changed. We need to find a way to work together, and I think that's something I think.
Yeah.
Okay, enough about me. Let me turn that back onto you now. So see, you since we spoke about that 25-year-old wanting to go to the bank and get some money. So see, as a young woman entrepreneur, okay, the founder of your own company, you came to a different city, and so you tell me that, did you have more challenges, uh, had you not been in a different city, had you been, a lot older, or maybe more qualified, or maybe, you had 20 years of work experience before you became a founder, and that would make it simpler for you. So what kind of challenges did you face?
Honestly, I don't think in any, even if I had the solutions or the right set of skill set to the challenges, entrepreneurship in itself is not easy. It's just a question of, I mean, it's something that I know we fought about, me taking it up. In fact, I didn't even tell you when I quit my job. I told you after 4 or 5 months. So I think some of the major fundamental challenges, yes, it was challenging to move out of a city like Bombay, where I've known people all my life, I've built a career there, to suddenly, say that, hey, now I'm in a city like Bangalore, where even language is something that I have had to learn over the last, couple of years. Though there were challenges, but I think what it really helped me do was it helped me discover who I was as a person outside of my comfort zone, which is also what being an entrepreneur is, which is also, when you have a support system, and in my case, it was you guys, it was my education, it was friends, it was people I've worked with. When you have a support system that gives you the platform to jump off, you know for a fact that even if you fail, at least you tried. So yeah, there were a hell of a lot of challenges. There were challenges in language. There were challenges with the fact that I didn't know anybody here. Everyone I know in Bangalore is literally people I've worked with, people I've networked with. A random person I met at a bar and we become very good friends. Somebody who lives down the road. I don't know if he's watching, but we become good friends. So I think your support system and the fact that you have community here, which is something that I love about Bangalore. And I was telling this to a friend just yesterday who's also an entrepreneur, that in Bangalore, the community of entrepreneurs is very strong. There is no differentiation or distinction on whether you are from XYZ university or you're from so and so school or you stay in so and so place, you come from so and so socio-economic background, which is something that is very, very strong in Bombay as a city. Not to say one is better than the other. I'm sure this happens universally. This is from my experience. But I realized in Bangalore, the community of entrepreneurs and the community of people who, sort of are in the same journey and same boat together really helps make it easier. So, yeah, I mean, there have been so many challenges, but I think through this course, I've grown to know some really fantastic people. So, yeah, it sounds like an Oscar speech.
Yeah, okay. I'd like to thank the academy. Okay, and my
Yeah, yeah.
friends and everyone else. Yeah.
And
So,
most importantly, my dogs.
yeah. So no. So no. I mean, it's good that you mentioned that. I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned. The in terms of the difference in a little bit of the culture. Which is there in Mumbai and Bangalore, and how it differs. So, but when you set up your own business, and it was, I think. Not very clear about the timeline because it happened and you were setting it up, and then the pandemic hit. You know, and then just as you were establishing yourself, the pandemic hit, and everything went digital. Okay, now the pandemic is over. Okay, so the pandemic is over, and what are you seeing right now, in your circle, in the with the brands and the companies that you're dealing with, so people say that they're going back to normal, so are they going back to how they did things earlier? What's that change which is happening, so in the digital space, in the digital marketing space, in the creative
Mhm.
branding space, Are people continue to be more open to digital, or like, no, 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 now the pandemic is over, let's go back to doing business the way we used to do business, so has the nature of work changed? Has anything changed, or or you see it changing, or is there a set pattern about this happening?
So I can answer this in two ways. One is for brands as businesses, and two is for people as consumers. What's happening, I'll address the people as consumers bit. What's happening with people is that there was this, the pandemic had like three, it ebbed and flowed in so many ways, but the first part was depressive. Then there was a lot of hope, and people were actually on a high, that they were happy they were home. It was like an extended summer vacation that you actually got paid for. And then it all came crashing down. And now we're sort of recovering from that crash. So people have gone through way too many emotions and way too much turmoil in the last 3 years, you can say. And from the time we started, and if you see all consumer facing brands, they have had to grow through that with their customers. What ends up happening is when brands alienate how a customer feels. Because in that moment, you feel like, for instance, we were hard selling. I take the example of a home decor business. We were hard selling home offices and this and that, and IKEA's coming, and we're so excited about all of this. And people were like, okay, cool. So the brand was like, let's be aggressive with our ads. People are spending money. They're not spending on going out. They're going to spend on their homes. And we're all really excited about this. But now the same business that only stuck to spending because you are sitting at home forgot about the fact that this guy has, come to the other end of the spectrum and is now actually going to office. The desk that he spent, 18,000 bucks on means nothing right now to him. He's probably looking to sell it. And this guy is like, why is my business not growing? Let me put some more money. And then they'll hear words like funding winter, and everybody just like you shrivel up. The truth is, you don't have to do that. You're relevant today, even though your customer is not the same guy from, say, 2.5 years ago or 1.5 year ago. Which is one thing that I have seen in brands in general, is that the customer is evolving, the customer's needs are changing, but you're still stuck in a whole other timeline of your glory.
Yeah.
Like what got you here doesn't get you there. It's
Yep.
super simple. It's a very, very basic thought, but the same thing applies to consumer brands, especially to consumer brands. And I frankly think that the more you're able to just sit and emulate your customers' thoughts and feelings, which is why we put a lot of emphasis when we take up projects on your customer persona, on who they are, where they shop, what they wear. Do they go out on a weekend? Do they not go
Yeah.
out on a weekend? Is this a guy who's working 6 days a week who just wants to potato at home on a Sunday? Or is it, someone who works and is useful and really likes going out there? So, tracking conversations on social media, getting a pulse of how people feel is very, very important to how you choose to sell your business, because one day you're hard selling, the next day you take a step back, because sometimes there is merit in taking a step back.
So there is a lot of aspects of behavioral science and all that you just
Yeah,
said. Yeah. So
a
you
lot.
know, understanding the consumer perspective, the mindset, why they are doing things they do. It's pretty much all of that. So when you and your company are focused on the D2C space.
Yeah.
So over there, other than this, customer profiling, what other challenges do these brands have, when they go out to sell? Of course, they need to know what the customer is thinking, okay, and they need to find a way of how to, position their product or service
Mhm.
in line with that. But other than that, what is it? What are the other challenges other than this aspect? You know, whether it is okay. So you tell me, and then maybe if you've not covered something, I can ask you that.
Cool. So, I mean, there are a lot of challenges. Running a D2C business is extremely difficult because you cannot predict, like, you have to really love your product and your product category to actually know when to scale, when not to scale, when to pick the opportunity of scaling versus not picking the opportunity of scaling, even if it presents itself. Because what happens is it's a very frivolous consumer market. So the uncertainty is the biggest challenge. And then, of course, second to uncertainty, the most obvious one is budgets. But what ends up happening at the root cause of all of this is the founder mix, which is, do you have a product guy? Do you have a people guy? Do you have only a product guy? Do you have someone who is just a people guy with an idea? Or do you just have a guy with a lot of money and a hope to, throw it at the wall and hope that something sticks? All of these guys are great guys. Like, nobody, there's nothing wrong with anyone. But that is where, which much like psychology, general psychology and behavioral science, that is where the real problem arises. Knowing when to be perceptive and intuitive, and knowing when to be an aggressive business person. And you need that right balance between your founders to be able to say that, hey, this is worth pushing for versus this is not worth pushing for. Because in that instance, when there is adversity, you take the right business decision,
Mhm.
which is what your money, which is where your money problems come from. Bad business decisions, lots of money problems. Good business decisions, better money problem, better, not lack of money problems. So I think that where who you are as a founder and how much you work on growing yourself and keeping yourself aware is where, I think it's not a challenge, it's where you start addressing the challenges you actually have. So even if you tomorrow say that, hey, I have a supply chain problem, it has nothing to do with the founder technically. But the thing is, if you backtrack it, it's a series of decisions that were made. You chose to save money on packaging or, on the supplier, and then you realize, shit, my product gets delivered to my customer 8 days later. And then you realize that 8 rupees that I tried to save, or that 10 rupees that I tried to save, has lost my customer's trust. This weighs heavier than this. This is financial, but this is not financial. But the weight of this is more
And
than
probably
this.
more damaging,
Yeah.
more long term damage. Yeah.
Correct. So I
Yeah.
think it's in those moments where you have to take a step back and say, I should not be egoistic about this, and penny wise, pound foolish. Like, I need to take a bit of, maybe if I make a deeper investment here, it will add better value there. And the financial investment sometimes will not always give a financial gain. It will give an intangible gain, which will make this mean so much more. The problem is we look for instant gratification, which is another very big problem in D2C. Is you are obsessively sitting and watching your website sales. So you are waiting, like the ad is live. Why is the ad not live? Where are my Instagram likes and this and that? And it's all great. But if from 6 months from today, if your customer doesn't remember your product, what was the point of that 1.5 lakh that you spent on advertising, 6 months prior? So it's really important to be clear on, as my mom calls it, your priority matrix. What's urgent versus what's priority. I think it's important to do that for a business too. So you know when you need the instant gratification hit and the dopamine rush versus when you sort of need to grow with your business. Because,
Yeah, it's interesting you brought up that point about the so it circles back to what you asked me in terms of the maturity level of the founders and the
yeah,
different types of founders, and the older founder and the younger entrepreneur now. In the good old days, we used to just call it a proprietary firm. There was no fancy word like startup, entrepreneur, founder. You were a proprietor. So that's it. Or if two of you got together, you are not co-founders, you are partners. Because you made
yeah,
a partnership concern.
partnership.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, but no, but it's interesting you mentioned that, because that's actually the a lot of it is to do with the maturity, the levels of maturity, or the ability to even change. So. Now not everybody knows what needs to be done, so you do something, and as you said, you make a mistake, you switch, you do something else. And fortunately now you have a lot of data points, you have a lot of opportunities where you can switch and do other things. Earlier you couldn't do that. If you pick and chose a line, you'd probably struggle through with it. And also there is this societal pressure, for you to succeed, and if you don't succeed, oh my god, you're a failure in your business. Today it's like, fail fast, fail faster, and all of that is, it's cool. I tried four things, and three didn't work, but the fourth one, I have Google. So so that's okay. So there's no shame in that. Earlier, that was what was also happening. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you one thing. You mentioned about marketing and a lot of the D2C brands. Now, since you're an external agency, okay,
hmm.
and a lot of companies have a lot of internal teams also, so you always have this challenge about, I have an internal team, so why do I need an external agency? How can somebody else tell us better than what we know about our product and how to sell our product? Okay, so I've heard this n number of times, in the consulting space. Okay, but in this marketing space, especially in the digital marketing space and the creative advertising space, it's a lot more obvious and a lot more conflicted. You have a team, and then the founders will protect their team, and then you don't want to listen to an outside agency. So what happens? So how do you deal with this situation?
It's my favorite question.
Oh no.
So, truth be told, whenever we get on pitch calls with clients, not even pitch calls, like just introductory calls where they're exploring options, and this could be across the board. I don't think scale of company determines whether you choose to have an internal team or you choose to go to an agency. One of the few things that we sit with founders and we actually understand is, do you even need us? Because nothing sucks more than having an agency that you don't do justice to. Frankly, you would rather keep your money and let the agency do their thing, because, and trust me, I love my business, I love growing it, but there are times where we have objectively recognized that a client or a founder needs to first build their ecosystem before they go ahead and they seek help outside. What is a very common misconception is that an agency does not claim to know your product better than you. We do not know your product better than you. We don't know your sales better than you. We don't even know your founder better than you. And we're not competing with that. Our job is, we are your eyes outside looking in. We are not inside looking out. So, which is why when you choose to go with an agency, or rather, when you are stuck with the decision on whether you should take an agency on board or not, the question you need to ask yourself is, within what we're doing right now, what are our challenges? Which is the first question I always, when I sit with the founder, is what are your challenges? And anything, even if it's a godforsaken packaging problem, I don't care. If I can't help you, I will tell you, hey, I can't help you, but I need to know what your problem is. Because sometimes what we perceive our problems are versus what they really are
Yep.
two very different things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So first thing is to understand what are your challenges and to see if within your team internally you're able to tackle those problems. Now, for some founders, you can say, hey, I need a hands on team who is replying to social media as and when it comes, as and when a comment comes, or as and when a query comes in. Now, an agency will not be able to do that. So, then, yes, have the guy internally who is, whose sole job is to look after the post, ensure the hygiene is going out, and, comments are responded to as and when they happen, because it's one guy looking after one brand. An agency is 8 to 10 people looking after 15 to 20 brands. So they will not prioritize like this guy. And if you need this and your business needs this, then you need that guy. Then an agency, no matter how good, no matter how much we commit on, these are the tools we use, but no, you don't need us. You don't need our tools. You need your guy. And it's good that you need your guy, because if a customer has not got their order, an agency will slowly at the end of the day put it on the glorified Excel sheet and then hope that your guy sees it tomorrow, and then the customer is still waiting for like 3 layers of approval. It's not the customer's
Yeah.
business. So in that moment you need your internal guy who probably sits next to the supply chain warehouse guy, who's going to be like, okay, let me figure out what's up. That is good work. That is a good use of internal resource where you're optimizing your operations, you're optimizing your customer satisfaction, you're optimizing your brand, service, or product. An agency comes in when you have this foundation set, whether with an agency or otherwise, you have this foundation set, and now you want to understand your customer better. You want an outside perspective on where does your brand fit into the universe of brands, because a customer is not just looking at your business. A customer, when he's doom scrolling on Instagram or on YouTube or whatever, they are seeing 50,000 people like you. Like the other day, I accidentally clicked on some athleisure brands ads, and I was doomed for the whole week until I caved and I bought a pair of pants hoping that I put the ads and stop. They did, because I started clicking aggressively on other ads. I was like, thank God, something else.
Yeah.
And I realized that a customer is literally in this position every day. You live in your bubble and your universe, but the customer lives in like 50,000 bubbles and a
Yeah.
much wider universe, which is where agencies come in. So when you realize you've saturated everything that you have and you've done your best and you feel like, okay, how do I level up? How do I do something that is clutter breaking? Cliche. But yeah, that is clutter breaking. You kind of go to an outsider. You say that, hey, I'm ready to be real about this. It's like a kickboxing game. You're ready to take the punches. You're ready to throw some, because that's what builds a good agency customer, agency client relationship. Is when you are ready to play a fair and square game of kickboxing. Is when you know that okay, we're in a healthy place and you trust each other. I think that is, of course, it takes time, but when you trust each other, and I think some of the best work that I can say I have done in my career is when my client or customer or even my boss or team trusted me to do my job.
Yeah.
And when I screwed up, they trusted me to come and tell them that I screwed up. So I think that
And,
was when
and
you sort
and
of
you
decide,
should have added the third part. Trusted you to be able to make efforts to try and fix it. Yeah. So
yes,
yeah,
and that,
so
of course.
that's it. Yeah. So you actually answered my the next question that I had on my mind is like when should brands and companies start
Mhm.
looking for an outside agency? That I was going to ask you that. I didn't want to interrupt you because you were on a roll, so I said, okay, continue. So that's what it
It's
is.
in the genes what to do.
Yeah, it's like I'm talking to myself, but yes.
Oh
But that
no.
was good. That was going to be the next question. In terms of what should they look out for and how should they make it work, and so I guess you answered that. So yes, so folks, coming back to why we thought we do this, very interesting perspective, and you see how all of this gets tied together. So you have a business leader, an entrepreneur, founder, whatever you want to call it, somebody who's running the business, who's wanting to grow the business, who's wanting to understand how they can do it better themselves by getting the right people, learning how to work with the right people, and then the product or service that they actually put out in the market. What are the others thinking about it? And how you go about doing that. So this whole thing, this because I was asked that you're doing on leaders and branding. In Hindi, I was told, leader branding के बारे में क्या करेगा? So it's like, so that's the branding people. So, and I keep giving the example that the leaders of companies are actually the best brand ambassadors, or at least the most prominent brand ambassadors, and they have the opportunity. I mean, the CEO of a company or the founder of a company will be called to speak at an event. Okay, the marketing head probably would be called, but the CEO will be sought after. Okay, so you will know if I name six large big tech companies, you will probably be able to name their CEOs. If I ask you who's the director of marketing, you'll probably not be able to. So now I'm not saying that they are the best brand ambassadors, but they are probably the most effective brand ambassadors. So they need to know what to say and what not to say. So from a perspective, because our everyone knows this. If Elon Musk puts out a tweet, the share price of Twitter can fall. So that can also happen. So I mean, the good, bad, or the otherwise. But those things happen. So because we are in an age where information passes so fast, passes across to so many people, that circle of influence has expanded and has become, it's shortened. The cycle to reach, a million people is very, very short now. So leaders need to be really careful about what they say and do, because that can also affect their own branding and the brand of the customer in their company. So that's why it all ties in. Anyway, so Shagun, thank you very much for your perspective. And okay, so for the rest of you folks, I must tell you that what Shagun and I have decided to do is,
That, by the way, I'm seeing some comments. People are saying they can't hear you. Could you be a little
they
louder?
can't hear me, which is a good thing as long as they can hear you. Yeah. So my voice is
So
very feeble.
cheesy.
My voice is very feeble. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm being overwhelmed right now, guys. So what can I say? So anyway, so the thing is, what we plan to do is, we are putting together a workshop, where we will go through this entire thing about leadership and branding and how it all ties in, and where does behavioral science come in. What insights can it give you to help you either become a good leader or a more effective leader. Understanding the branding aspect. If you're a person from the branding fraternity, what is it that you can look out for, and how is it that behavioral science can help you to do this. So we're actually doing a workshop. And sorry guys in Bombay, we're just doing it in Bangalore for now. So I just thought, let me put that out there. So this is what it is. Yeah, okay. And this will be on the 24th of June. Okay, right here in my favorite venue. That's the Rotary House of Friendship. Okay, every Monday I'm there, and probably sometimes more than once a week. So it's a very nice place in the middle of the city. So it's on 24th of June. The link will circulate to everyone who's interested. If not, you've been spammed by me enough, so you know where to contact me. So you can get in touch with me. So let me know if you're interested. It's here in Bangalore. It's going to be a good 3-4 hour session where we will go in depth into how you can improve your leadership. I wouldn't say qualities, but your ability to understand things a lot better, so that you become a more effective leader. And also the branding aspect of your product or service. So we thought that it would be incomplete to talk to leaders about behavioral science without helping them understand, the nuances of branding, so that they can have a well-rounded program. So that's what we are doing on 24th of June, and
Oh, and I would like to add,
yeah,
so
please.
my team and I have also decided that in this workshop, we're going to pick 5 brands and we're going to actually work through their brand challenges or whatever it is that they feel like they would like to work on through the course of the workshop. So, from the time we start to the time we end, we're going to sit with you, get your problem statement, and actually work through it. So, it's not just nice, cute talk, it's actual, like you will see it work, you will understand where it comes from, because sometimes it takes a lot of time to explain what goes on in our heads. So, this is our small attempt to sort of take you through a live case study or 5 to sort of take you through what actually goes behind the scenes when someone says branding. It's not just a fancy word, there's a lot to it. So, if you are very sure that you would love to come, please tell me your brand and your brand details so we can, actually do some background prep.
Yeah. Okay. And all of you who have put in, who have commented, let me just go through that. Yeah. Okay. So yes, Rajendra, thank you for joining the program and listening in. And yes, Ashok, yeah, thank you very much for the birthday wishes. And Shagun, apparently you handled the session better than I did. Yeah, so great, wonderful. So, yes, well, thank you for watching, Girish, and thank you for joining us. I'm going to skip all the happy birthday greetings, so, okay. Oh yeah, thank you very much. It's the first time we did this together. Okay, so it was a big risk that I took. I tell people behavioral science. Get out of your comfort zone, and also, so trying to pull a stunt like this. Doing it with somebody less than half your age, and yeah. So
Remember the things you said at the start of the session.
yeah, okay. So yeah, looking forward to the workshop. Yeah, looking forward to doing it for you. So thank you very much. And okay, so I think Shagun, somebody has answered your
Yes,
question.
Nishika. Hi. Shout out to the Target Factory.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, thank you. A lot of real issues. Yeah, I mean, we try to keep it as real. So thank you very much. And Mustan, yes, thank you very much for watching. And I saw your earlier comment on. Let me see if I can find that comment somewhere here. Yeah. You hit the nail on the head, when you said that external agencies would know more about the marketing. So yeah, sure, great. Okay, I'm skipping all the happy birthday wishes. Okay, so yeah, Ishita, yes, that's it. Working together. I think this was in context for the generational shift that we were talking about. Yeah. So anyway, so I think who is this? Pradeep. Oh yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, Pradeep, if I'm not mistaken, it's your birthday too today, right? If I'm not mistaken, yeah. Pradeep and I went to school together, and I think yeah, we were, and I think it's your birthday too today. So very many happy returns. I think it's sometime in June itself, and I think if I'm not mistaken, it is today. Yeah. So Nabuji, thank you very much, and
Thank you so much, Chef. That's very kind coming from you.
hope there's a workshop in Mumbai soon. Yeah, I hope so too. So let's see. There's somebody else who says, oh,
That
yeah.
is this Pushkal Singh ISF group. I'm sending an email, man.
No, this is an interesting one. Okay, Abbas, Abbas says waiting for Shagun's birthday. Okay, yeah, sure. So maybe Shagun. So now that's it.
No,
Yes.
this is the one thing I'm not taking away from you. Working on my birthday. Nope.
Yeah, Pradeep, it was yesterday. Yeah, okay. So I had a clue. Okay, well, thank you very much. And I think that's it from us. Thank you for watching. It's been very interesting to do this and very challenging for us also. But I hope it added value. Please do send your feedback. You have my phone number. You have our WhatsApp. You have our email IDs. I'm not putting it in a graphic on screen, as we usually do because you guys know us. So that's it. So please, if you have any question regarding behavioral science, leadership, or branding, please feel free, reach out. You know where to contact Shagun, you know where to contact me. Thank you very much for joining. Maybe we'll do something like this later. And for those of you who are in Bangalore, please join us for the workshop. Details will be sent to you. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Shagun. Thank you very much. And thank you
Yes.
to your team. Sonali and Rashmin and
Rishita,
Rishita. Thank you,
Prishita.
Prishita. Thank you very much
Yes.
for doing this for us. And Arjun, since you're not home yet, yeah, thank you very much for not ringing the bell. And okay, and okay, see you guys later. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Shall
Good
I
night.
shall I hit end stream now? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There goes.